Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, the Two Opinionated podcast could really use your help. And it's easy, it's free. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, named us a top 100 podcast. We came in at number 82. That's a big deal because there's 15 million podcasts and growing. So to be named to anybody's top 100 list, pretty big deal for us. And the way you can help is to go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and that's it. Just bringing our page up. That traffic really helps us out. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. All we ask is that you subscribe. It's also free, but that really helps us to attract these amazing guests that we keep bringing on the program. And that's it. Two easy ways for you to support us, and we would really appreciate the help. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. So excited today. I've got writer, director Ryan Singh with me. So welcome, Ryan.
Thank you very much.
Now I'm glad you're here. So we've got to do a little talking about A Ray of Hope. I'm so excited to talk about it again. But before we do, let's get a little bit of your background. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What got you into kind of the entertainment business, so to say.
Well, I was sort of born into it. I was born in Guyana of mixed heritage, and I've used that mixed heritage to sort of search for my identity. And in that search of identity is sort of what got me into telling stories about diversity. And so going to Sri Lanka was my way of searching for my South Asian heritage and seeing what that was like, and discovering that there's a whole world of human rights and social injustice happening out there, and spending the next 11 years of my life just working on telling this story and finding a way of telling it. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Ray of Hope. What's the documentary about, and kind of how did that come about?
Well, the documentary is about the Tamil community. It's about their fight for justice and freedom. It's also a story about identity. You've had a chance to speak with Rathika before, and she was able to expand a little bit about what that war has been like over the last number of decades. In 1983, the official war began that led to a 40 or 26-year armed conflict.
Right, and this was in Sri Lanka?
Sri Lanka, yeah.
Sri Lanka, yeah.
And Sri Lanka is located at the south end of India. So a small island that's a teardrop of India, really.
Yeah. Rathika she was so good. I was so happy to have her on, and she's former minister, with Canada, and it's just unbelievable. And she was
excited. She was excited to come back, but only her schedule. She was available next Tuesday.
Oh, and so we could have done it then. I'd have waited on her.
I said I thought it would be great to talk about the film while we were in Washington, D.C., because, former MP, Canadian Parliament, and being in Washington, D.C., bringing the film here, Spike Lee being one of the guests of this festival, like Real Film Festival, it was just like a perfect harmony to bring everything together, except her schedule wasn't available.
Yeah, she's pretty busy. I mean, she stays pretty active.
Oh man, she is one of the busiest people. Like, even working on this film, we spent 9 years, because partly it's really hard to go back into these trauma stories and share it.
Yeah.
And, the fear of retaliation, the fear of community scorn, whether you're telling the right story or not, it's such a big deal. And so for us to have gotten to this point is really it's really amazing. And she was just 100% committed with the work and with making herself vulnerable in telling this story. And what we've had is we've now had 56 theatrical screenings. We've had 7 festival screenings and 1 private screening with 6 awards in the last week. So
yeah, it's amazing.
Really,
and how it has to be a good feeling to see something you've been spending so much time on, on a big screen. I mean, that's an accomplishment just by itself.
It was. Growing up, like I said, I've been in the film and in the business of art all my life, and an avid viewer of film and television. And so to see that experience of my name on the big screen in the marquee was just like, it's come a long way. But for us, what's important is that it's not that it's in the screen, is that it gets to people. So our job right now is about creating a grassroots engagement with this story. And what has come out of the story since Rathika last spoke with you is that sense of identity, the search for identity, the search of who am I as a Tamil person displaced and not having a home to call my home, when I'm in foreign lands and having to recreate from nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well, and I know when she was going back over there, that was pretty brave of her to do. And I know she was watched pretty closely while she was there and was even kind of hiding out a little bit.
Well, we had a TV show called Person of Interest. I don't know if you ever watched that.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
And so being in Sri Lanka with Rathika, for me, felt like Born Identity or Person of Interest. It's like you're everywhere, you're in hiding, but you're so exposed all the time because everyone is watching you.
Yeah, and it has to be kind of an uneasy feeling.
It truly is. It truly is. And what was even more revealing was the fact that she was hiding the information from me so that she can protect me.
Yeah.
I'm there with her. I have the camera. I'm rolling. The person who was with the people we ended up meeting with, the person who was Indian ended up going to jail, while the Australian and New Zealand person got deported out of the country.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of situation that we were going into.
Right.
And
so, that's scary.
It was. It truly was.
How long were you over there?
We were there for 6 days. On day 3, we got word that we were going to be under arrest, not house arrest. The propaganda went out that we were under house arrest when they couldn't find us. And we spent the night on New Year's Eve of 2013 trying to figure out whether or not we were going to, A, be arrested, B, be alive, C, return to our families.
I mean, that's just terrifying. And terrible that type of stuff is still going on now. You think we'd be to the point that we could all kind of get along, but we really don't.
Well, and that's the case. That's the case. Regardless of religion, creed, whatever, October 7th showed us that we're still having a problem. And that problem is with maniacal leaders of countries and organizations who make these choices, and then innocent people get caught in the aftermath of those choices.
Right. Yeah, it's awful. It's just terrible. And if I remember right, you had a screening last night, didn't you?
Not last night. Our screening is going to be tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what
last Friday.
Gotcha.
Or last Thursday, and picked up 2 awards in Toronto on Friday.
Yeah, I know you're making the rounds now. This is kind of the fun part.
Well, the last month for myself, I went to Cannes, France, where I was able to see and share the story with people who are Canada is the #1 film market in the world.
Yeah.
And to be able to share the story, and people were very interested and, keen on having some partners for my next project was great. But also people wanting to distribute this particular project was even better. And then we went to England, where we won a couple of awards out there. And then we came back to Toronto, had a couple of festivals here. And so it's just been a whirlwind right now. We're set to do DC, and then later on in the month we're going to Jamaica, then coming out to Wyoming, and then LA. So we're reaching audiences in different areas, and the audiences are connecting to the story because it's a story about human condition.
That's right. That's exactly right. How has the Tamil community or the Tamil community kind of accepted or thought about the documentary?
Well, it's a mixed bag. For the people who have seen it, they have been so overwhelmingly supportive of it.
Yeah.
The mixed bag comes from the people who have not yet seen it.
What are they worried about?
There is worry because Rathika comes from a political background.
Right.
And for many people, that is still a sort of, if they're of another political background, they don't want to be associated with politics.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I get that. I think a lot of us feel that way. If you have an opinion about something, you don't want somebody's other opinion maybe getting involved in it.
Exactly. But one of the things that I heard last night was a survivor of the war, a doctor. He made his own film, and I was speaking to him about what he thought of our film because he came to support, bought 5 tickets. And he said this was an absolutely astounding picture. And hearing that from a man who almost got killed because of his involvement with the war, saving people during it, it was humbling. It was humbling because he knew what was happening. He knew what happened. And he's saying this story needs to go out because it helps to tell the story that he's been trying to do, but has done it in Tamil.
Right. Yeah, it's such a worthwhile project. And just remind me a little bit, what got it started? Where did the kind of the push to get this documentary made? Was it because of the trip over there, or was that trip because you were making the documentary?
Well, no, the documentary happened as a result of the trip. When Rathika was preparing to go to Sri Lanka, it was her first time. And as she had told you before, it was a time when she was a sitting member of parliament. And so she thought it was the safest time to go. She did not want to go with an entourage. Like, she could have had the major television stations send a group of filmmakers with her. So we had lunch on December 16, 2013. And 10 days later, I was on the plane when she purchased the ticket for me to come and capture her trip there so that we could document what it feels like to go back to her homeland, to meet her family that was still there.
Yeah.
We did not realize that we were going to be going into a place that we would find ourselves on the siege. So it transformed while we were on the trip.
Yeah.
And I was capturing all of this footage and coming back, I was like, how can I tell what happened? Because she was able to escape with her life, but there's so many people who are enforced disappeared.
Yeah.
So the government comes and picks up people and takes them away, and they never heard about again.
Yeah, it's awful.
But we were able to escape. So think about the many people that were there. And I spent 9 years trying to speak with different partners to help tell the story. And many people joined and then quit because they were afraid of themselves here in Canada, their ability to return to Sri Lanka, or their families getting implicated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awful.
So 2 years ago, I still had this project, and I said, I want to tell the story But then I started to realize that there was more than just our trip. There was the impact of people not wanting to talk about what they experienced. For Rathika and my own relationship, we came back and we hardly ever spoke about what happened.
Really? Why is that?
Well, it's hard to live through the trauma that you experience.
Yeah.
To say to someone, I was scared for your life, I was scared for my own life.
Right.
To know that that was a possibility that you may not have come back. And to say it out loud is very difficult. I mean, we all live through different types of traumas in our lives.
Yeah.
And to keep retelling it, the closest thing that I've come to is losing a baby.
That's awful.
And the loss of that baby, me and my wife never talk about it. Yeah. I don't talk about it much. I'm sharing that just to give the closest equivalent of what trauma is like.
Yeah, right? Yeah, and condolences. That's such a hard thing for any parent to go through. That's difficult, and that makes sense. Like I understand that example makes sense to me of why, if you've experienced trauma together, maybe it's not the easiest thing to bring it up. You know, it's enough just knowing you've been through it, so that you have that kind of that bond. But you don't necessarily, you know, it's painful sometimes to talk about it.
Yeah, but while the story started out as that being the impetus, what I also discovered through my research and being amongst the community is how resilient they have been. They're one of the fastest growing economic communities in the country. They have a whole community built around them, and it's supported by the community, their businesses.
Right.
So to see that, I wanted to celebrate that resilience.
Yeah.
And so this is the story that came out of it. And what I discovered through shooting with my partners, Nikila Cole, who is my co-director on this project, is that there was that sense of search for identity. Who am I in the grand scheme of all that has happened? For the young people, they want to know, what is it like to be Tamil? And where's that Tamilness from? Because Tamil does not exist as a physical country. It's a thought and an aspiration, but it's also the desire to own one's own land in a place that they don't identify as their country. That is Sri Lanka.
Right.
And so, and for the older people, it's the trauma that they have experienced. You know, there's one story of a young man who discovered his father's diary after his father passed on, and all of the accounts that the father had written down. And they still have the shirt through which the bullet passed through when the father was shot in a tank.
Oh my gosh. It's just awful.
Right. And managed to live through that.
You know, I think most of us struggle with understanding what that type of situation would be like, you know, because, you know, most of us don't fear for our lives, just living our lives, you know, and that's not the case for everybody. And that's why I think this is such an important documentary, because, you know, I was like a lot of people. You might have heard just a little bit about it, but you didn't know really what was going on there. And this documentary really helps to bring out that story and tell that story from, you know, from the eyes of people that kind of live through it.
Well, that's the big thing that's what I really love about this documentary, is that when we hear about the Tamils, it's a 2.5-minute newsreel that plays over and over again of Tamils throwing over their government, Tamils at war, Tamils closing down the highways and their protests for something I don't know and I don't care about here in North America. But this story allows us to get to understand the nucleus of who Tamil is and what they're about, and the family structure, and to really fall in love with the characters so that we are able to fight with them in their search for justice, in their search for reconciliation.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What was your feeling like when she comes to you and she's like, we're going over What? How was it? Was it excitement? Was it fear? What were you thinking?
Listen, I was excited to have another trip. Okay, I love traveling. I had just gone to South Africa
Oh yeah.
in the spring of that year, and I had that deja vu experience. I don't know if you have any family from some European country that you've gone back to and then discover that there are people that look like you, that sound like you, even though they've never lived in your ethos.
I've got a good friend that his family's from a different country. He'd never been there, and him and his wife a few years ago went to is Estonia, and he went to Estonia to visit, and that was the experience he had. He gets there and it's like everybody looks like me.
It's a deja vu because we live with these things coming through our veins, our bones,
Yeah,
being handed down. That is secondhand knowledge. And when we get that firsthand experience, it solidifies everything we thought we knew and discovered that we didn't. And that was that experience I had when I went to South Africa.
yeah,
And going to Sri Lanka, it was seeing that other side of my family come alive, because everyone was South Asian in
yeah.
some manner. And the houses looked the same, and the food, the curries, the smell, the it was like,
Did you feel like you
wow,
were home?
I did.
Yeah,
I really did. And that's what I was looking for because, again, I suffer from identity issues. I have so many races
right.
tied up in who I am. And I wanted to be able to have something that was solid about what my background is. What does it feel like to be South Asian when I've never really been immersed in a South Asian community?
That's right. And it's so important. Those ties to our history, so important to just developing as a person ourselves. You need
Absolutely.
that history. You may not agree with it sometimes, but you need to know where you came from so that it can help you move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, even when I speak with white people sometimes, and I put it as broad white people,
Right.
I say go back and look at your ethnic whiteness. And I had one gentleman who went back and he says, well, one side of my family comes from royalty or important blood, as he puts it, and the other side comes from humble beginnings.
Yeah.
And so I was able to share that uh, diversity with my children. And so when we're able to ground ourselves in our own diversity, we start to realize how unique humanity is because we can now start to share the commonalities of our own diversity with other people from different cultures.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and it's kind of refreshing to hear somebody speak that type of stuff because we don't talk about that enough. That importance of family, community, feeling like you belong. I mean, that's what makes us kind of human.
Absolutely, that's what makes us fully human.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So what's next for Ray of Hope? What's the what are we looking forward to? Does it lead to another documentary? Is it is this something you just want to get out there for everybody and then see what happens? What's next?
Right now, we've got a lot of exciting conversations, distribution talks where people want to acquire the project so that they can put it on a platform so that it can reach a wider audience. We're looking at bringing it into theaters again, but in different theater markets. We're getting a lot of requests about how can people see it in different countries.
Yeah.
And so there's a momentum that is happening. We also have several festivals booked until October at this moment. So it's a busy time, and but the big
that's a good busy
is,
though.
It is. But it's hard work because this outside of it being something that celebrates culture, it's a business as well. it's taken a lot of money to invest to make something like this happen. And so it's how do we make sure that that business is realized so that the story can have a longevity for as long as possible, and for the people themselves to be able to reinvest some of this money towards justice and reconciliation.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, what about for Ryan? You know, when Ray of Hope, when you're kind of, I got a feeling it's never going to be completely done. You're going to be working on that probably for the rest of your life because it's such an important subject. But what's next for Ryan? Do you have projects lined up? Are you going to, are you working on different documentaries? What's next?
I have several projects lined up. I'm putting documentaries down for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to do a documentary.
Yeah. Well, with the documentary, you're not just writing a story. You have to do all the research for that. And it's so time consuming.
Well, documentary is like an artisan chiseling rocks away. You don't find a story until it's finished and polished. And even
I love that. I love that. I'll tell you why I like that. My wife is an artist, and I love to watch her paint because I'm very unartistic. So I watch her paint, and she'll pause for a second, and I was like, "That looks incredible! I love it." And she's like, "It's not done," and then she'll work on it some more, and I'm like, "That looks even better." She's like, "It's not done," and it just keeps going layer upon layer upon layer. And then when it's finally actually finished, a lot of times it doesn't look anything like it started, but it's so much better. And I've kind of learned that that's all type of arts like that. You can't just look at it at the very start of the process and really see the whole picture of what it's going to be.
We had over 100 different renditions of this documentary. We even took the whole documentary and put it to the side and said, forget it. Let's pull something else. And we pulled Rathika strip and assembled a nice rough assembly of that and had it as its own documentary. So definitely exactly what you say, because find that story, find what you're looking for, it's layers and layers. And so in my own journey right now, it's finding that next story that I can pull out the layers. I have a beautiful story set in Guyana called Grace about again, it's about identity, but it's also about depression and how to find that humanity out of depression and hope. So I guess my stories are still around people and the discovery of who they are as human beings. I'm assembling a co-production team with India, UK, Germany, Canada, and the US to be able to bring this and make it a really universal story that can resonate globally.
I love that. I love that. Ryan, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time. I think this is such an important project. I was thrilled to have Sasha reach back out and say you wanted to come on, because I love the story. I love the background behind it, everything that's went into it. And it's such an important, somewhat unknown story. So I think we got to get that information out there. So just thank you so much for taking a little bit of time.
Thank you so much. And if you want to stay in touch with Ray of Hope, it's rayofhopedoc.com, RayofHopedoc.com.
Yeah, terrific. Ryan, you gotta come back and give us updates as we go along.
Well, certainly. Rathika really wants to speak with you again, so let's make that time that works for both of you.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'm dying to speak with her. She's one of my favorite interviews, and I've done about 800 of these, and she's just a lovely person. I really enjoyed the time talking with her. And hey, I've enjoyed this as well. I think the two of you make a pretty good team.
Whatever, man. Whatever. I'll bring her back.
Now, she spoke very glowingly about you and being able to work with you and your ability as a director and writer. I'm so happy we got to talk.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the time as well. You are a great interviewer. You do such an amazing job. I watched your interview with Rathika, and more people need to hear your stories, and we certainly are pushing it out on our website and our socials. So we want people to hear what you have to say as well.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, this has been terrific, and we'll get back together again. Okay, hold on one second. That was Ryan Singh. The documentary is Ray of Hope. I'm pretty sure that it made its theatrical debut yesterday. It's out there. So please do me a favor, do yourself a favor, and go find it. It's an incredible story. It's one a lot of us don't know about. I definitely did not know much about it, and I'm kind of a history buff. But it's a little bit heartbreaking. It's a little upsetting. But so important that we get that story out there so that we can help improve, this world we're living in for everybody. We want everybody. Listen, there's no reason that 8 billion of us, I can't believe there's that many of us on this planet, can't get along. There's enough here that we should be taking care of each other. We should not be out there invading other countries, depressing people, putting people in danger, that's unacceptable at this type of time in history. We should not be going through that anymore. And we know that's happening everywhere. Take care of your people, take care of your country, build coalitions with other countries so that we can continue to help save this planet so that 50, 100, 500 years from now, our kids, grandkids, the generations to come have a place to live and a good place to live. So I'll get off my soapbox. On a personal note, just wanted to bring up those of you who've watched the program for a while know I've been having some health difficulties. I'm not quite ready to talk exactly about what's going on. I'm still learning about what it all means. But I'm definitely having some issues. One of the problems I'm having is with my speech, which is a problem because I already have this West Virginia accent that's hard enough to understand, but I'm struggling a little bit, especially with words and names that I'm a little bit unfamiliar with saying. Those are giving me more trouble than they should be. So when I stumble or misspeak, and I've always done that, didn't really know why. Just know that it's unintentional and it's not for a lack of preparation. It's just something that I'm learning how to deal with. And at some point, I'll talk about and explain exactly what's going on, because I know my appearance has changed just a little bit the last several months, and there's a reason. I'm okay. We're going to be fine. The podcast isn't going anywhere. We're just adjusting to figure out how best to allow me to do what I do. So thank you. All of that. Thank you guys so much for hanging in there with us. We are so close to 800 episodes. I think today I'm putting out episode 788. So probably 2-3 weeks away from hitting number 800. And you can find all of those, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. Please check us out there. If we're doing anything in studio, going on location, covering a convention, it'll all be on the website, meistercon.com. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. It's free. Really helps us out. Those numbers on the page really help us out. So please subscribe. And again, Ray of Hope, you can go to rayofhope.com if you want to learn more. Please do so. It's a incredibly worthwhile project by some just amazing, just the best people you could meet. And we'll bring Rathika and Ryan back on for sure. We'll bring them back, hopefully together. I'd love to talk to them together. They were terrific. But thank you guys so much. Appreciate your support. Lots more to come. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.